Okay, so here's a question for you. Whatever happened to the cinema experience? I know that cinemas are obviously still going, but my question is less about the decline of cinema chains as such, but more the physical experience of actually going to the cinema itself. Let me set the stage here. As a youngster, my older brother and I loved going to the pictures, as we called it in the UK, or at least my generation did. Our go-to was the independent cinema in Westgate called the Colm Cinema, which is still going today, albeit as part of a small chain. It was an old-school theatre-type cinema with old wooden seats upholstered with red cushions on a fairly shallow incline. During the late 80s to the late 90s, we would frequent the cinema regularly, seeing some of the biggest and best films that Hollywood had to offer, as well as some shit ones as well, but I digress. Going to the cinema felt like an event during my younger years, but the experience of going to the pictures just isn't the same. The first thing you could say is maybe because of my age.
I'm too old for this shit.
My personal thoughts are a simple one, and that they simply don't make films like they used to. Big blockbusters from the mid-2000s to now have more emphasis on visual effects and spectacle over storytelling and character development. Sean might disagree here, but just see the Transformers films as an example, and the Fast and Furious franchise, as well as the MCU and the DCEU. In an age of social media and the rise of short-form media, attention spans have shortened with younger generations, but what age groups would most blockbusters be aimed at? Certainly not the 40-plus demographic primarily, but younger audiences who have become so used to watching short-form videos on their phones. So big blockbusters are made to try and hold audiences' attention these days. Long monologues and in-depth character development just doesn't catch the attention anymore, which, to me, lessens the enjoyment because it's now all about the CGI, explosions, and flashy action that just comes across as a little bit shallow. Yes, there are some exceptions, such as Dune's Part 1 and 2, the first Joker film, the Batman, etc, etc, but for every Top Gun Maverick, there's a whole series of subpar superhero films like Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, The Eternals, The Flash, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, to name but a few. It seems to me that there is a lot of style with little to no substance. The way films are being made has an impact upon the cinema experience for me. There are quite a few films since 2018, for argument's sake, that I've just felt that I'm not really interested in and will wait for it to come out onto streaming. And that's another point. Why go to the cinema when you can just wait a couple of months and it will be available to stream from the comfort of your own home on a streaming service that you probably already pay for? The modern world has changed hugely since the 90s. It was that you'd have to go see the latest release in cinema when you could, otherwise you'd have to wait around 6 months or so before it was released on home media. And even when you went to the video shop, you had to be quick because somebody else might rent the film before you. Back then, it felt like you were missing out if you didn't see the next big blockbuster in cinema. Now, it doesn't really matter because it will be on Disney Plus soon, so why bother? Another contribution is the less focus on cinematic releases in favour of multi-season television series, which are like watching a movie spread out over 10 episodes for argument's sake, with movie-level budgets. This approach can diminish the quality of what studios are producing due to the focus on multi-seasons of a popular TV series, such as Game of Thrones. And it's technology that has contributed in a big way to damaging the experience. I mean, don't get me wrong, because there was always the odd knobhead who would talk during a film, no matter the era. But back in the olden times, they weren't armed with a mobile phone. I recently went to see Joker 2, and my experience of seeing the film was further ruined by the knucklehead on his phone further along my row during the vast majority of the film. I had to put my hood up just to block out the light. I mean, I would have said something to him, but he was bigger than me. And then there's the prices. Not just of the concessionaries, which is just daylight robbery, but the tickets themselves. I mean, 17 quid for one ticket is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I know that there are deals for buy one get one free on certain nights, but come on. The price of a cinema ticket makes it that my wife and I and my friends have to pick and choose what films we go and see because it's simply too expensive to go to regularly. And then there's also the ads before the film. I know full well that if the showing time is set for 7:10, the film itself won't start until around 7:40 at least. Yet I still try to get to my seat around 7:10. I don't know why that is. And yeah, that is of my own doing, but I want to see the trailers for other films. As soon as the trailers end, more ads come on, and then there's always that final ad that comes on just after the cinema chain announcement where they ask you to switch off your phones, which dickheads don't think applies to them, and sit back and relax. It just feels like a never-ending reel of ads. I mean, I finished my £12 box of popcorn by the time the film started, and by that point, I need to go for a wee. For me, going to the cinema just doesn't feel like something that I can look forward to anymore. I mean, I don't think that I've really looked forward to seeing a film in cinema maybe since Spider-Man No Way Home, but again, maybe it's just my age.
I'm too old for this shit.
Technology, the attitudes of modern audiences as a collective, and the shift of modern filmmaking to hold attention spans have combined to really dampen the cinema experience, in my humble opinion. And I know what you're thinking, why go if you don't like it? Well, I am a glutton for punishment for one, but also because most films are spoiled on social media within a couple of days of release, so sometimes I feel the need to go to see a film in order to not have it ruined by somebody on Instagram or Twitter. But there is the odd exception. Oppenheimer and Dune Part 2 are two such films that are worth seeing in cinema. So there are still films that simply need to be experienced on the big screen before watching from home, unless you have a massive home cinema screen, that is. But what's your thoughts on the cinema experience? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you think that I'm overreacting and I should just get over myself? Let me know in the comments. I've been Colm from the Critical Cinema Club. Massive thanks for watching this pointless rant, and as always, we really appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch our content. Until the next video, take care.